From regular performance drug use to paying $60 for a fight that never happens, boxing is a sport that doesn't come without issues. Here are the biggest problems in boxing that need to be fixed immediately. Starting with the fact that there are just too many belts and champions out there. I mean, seriously, we have 4 main sanctioning bodies that each award a title in every weight class. That's a lot of belts. And it's not just one champion per weight class, but usually 4 fighters who can claim to be the best at that weight. To make matters worse, some of these sanctioning bodies have created a whole new level of belts, like regular champions, which only adds to the confusion. So you end up with situations where 2 fighters technically hold the same belt for the same sanctioning body. It's crazy. Obviously, this system is only about increasing the fees that these organizations can collect, and it's not good for the sport. It's time to simplify things and get rid of some of these useless belts. It would be better for everyone involved, including the fans who just want to see the best fighters compete for the titles that matter. And when it comes to fights that matter, the boxing world really needs to work on the fairness of these fights. One of the most frustrating things about being a boxing fan is when the judges make bad decisions. It's not a new problem, and unfortunately, it's not likely to go away anytime soon. When fans invest their time and money into watching a fight, they expect the outcome of the scorecard to reflect what actually happened in the ring. And when it doesn't, it's not only disappointing, but also leads to accusations of rigging, corruption, or incompetence. In the past year alone, we've seen some pretty terrible decisions in some high-profile fights like Pacquiao versus Bradley, or remember Rios versus Abril. Of course, not every close fight has disputed decisions. Sometimes, different people have different opinions. But when most people agree that the judges got it horribly wrong, that's a big problem. Boxing needs to address this issue by better training its judges and updating its scoring system. Otherwise, it'll continue to drive fans away from the sport and towards other combat sports like MMA. When it comes to pay-per-view boxing cards, fans want to get the most bang for their buck, especially during tough economic times. It's hard to justify shelling out over $60 for a night of fights when you don't know what you're going to get. Sometimes you'll get a night of thrilling action, but other times you'll end up with a dud. The problem is that most of those sports' big names like Mayweather and Pacquiao sell their pay-per-view events largely on their own. This means that the co-featured fights often aren't worth the price of admission and fail to draw in fans. This leaves the average fan with a tough decision to make. They're essentially being asked to pay for just one fight, which does nothing to grow the sport. It wasn't always like this. In the past, boxing cards were loaded with talent and featured multiple big names and champions on the same bill. It's time for boxing to return to this format to give fans a reason to spend their time and money. After all, if fans feel like they're getting value for their money, they're more likely to keep coming back for more. And that's a big problem when it comes to boxing. It's never been the main thing. When you think about boxing these days, you probably think of HBO, Showtime, and pay-per-view events. Maybe occasionally you catch a fight on ESPN's Friday Night Fights, but you don't think of the major TV networks like NBC or CBS. But that's something that boxing is trying to change. Recently, Golden Boy Promotions did a great job by showcasing bantamweight champion Leo Santa Cruz. He was on CBS as a lead-in bout to its Showtime telecast of Amir Khan versus Carlos Molina. Santa Cruz is an all-action punching machine, and his exciting style is perfect for selling the sport to a mainstream audience. It's something that boxing has struggled with in recent years, and it's a trend that they're trying to reverse now. It's a great idea and an important problem to solve. If boxing can find a way to get back into the mainstream and attract a wider audience, it could help grow the sport and ensure its future success. But if they want to ensure this success, they should really stop disappointing their fans. It's genuinely frustrating as a boxing fan when big fights that we've been waiting for just never seem to happen. We've all heard about the long-discussed Mayweather versus Pacquiao fight that never materialized. So let's not even go there.
You know, when you look someone in the eye, you can tell a lot. So when you looked in his eye, tell me what you saw.
It's business. It's my job. I've been here before. I know what it takes when it's a fight of this magnitude. And I'm happy just to be a part of this event, the biggest fight in sports history.
There are more recent examples of fights that fans have been demanding but haven't happened yet. I know I'm waiting for the super bantamweight clash between Nonito Donaire and Abner Mares. Both fighters hold titles and they're widely considered to be the top two fighters in the weight class, but the fight still hasn't been made. Mares is so frustrated by the lack of action that he's announced his plans to move up to featherweight, where he'll likely struggle to find many meaningful fights. The problem seems to be that Donaire and Mares work for different promotional outfits that refuse to do business together. This is a shame for fans who are missing out on a potentially great fight. Hopefully, someday soon, they'll be able to put aside their differences and make fights like this happen. After all, boxing's a sport that's all about competition, and we want to see the best fighters facing off against each other in the ring. Now, while we do love to see them fight, a fighter's health is still the top priority. Weight cutting and dehydration are serious problems in boxing that can lead to increased risk of injury and long-term health effects. Boxers will go to extreme measures to cut weight before a fight. Dehydrating themselves through methods like saunas or not drinking fluids can be dangerous. Additionally, the use of performance-enhancing drugs in boxing is a major concern. Boxers who use these drugs can gain an unfair advantage over their opponents and put themselves and their opponents at a serious risk of health problems. Not only is it unethical to use performance-enhancing drugs in boxing, but it can also have serious long-term consequences for the boxer's health. Boxing organizations need to have strict testing protocols in place to ensure that fighters are not using these substances. Ultimately, the safety and well-being of the boxers should be the top priority for everyone involved in the sport. It's important to address these issues and take steps to prevent them from occurring to protect the fighters and ensure the future of boxing as a sport. Speaking of the future of the sport, boxing can benefit greatly from the inclusion of diverse perspectives and talents. And the sport must take steps to ensure that all fighters have a fair chance to succeed. When I say all fighters, I do mean all fighters. Boxing's history of male dominance has led to a lack of opportunities and pay for female and minority fighters. Progress has been made, but there are still significant disparities.
You're not gonna knock me out, and you're not gonna beat me.
I'm gonna hurt you, and I'm gonna outbox you.
Are you gonna knock me out?
I'm gonna hurt you, and I'm gonna outbox you. That's all you need to know.
It doesn't sound like a knockout to me.
Women and minorities struggle for recognition and opportunities, discouraging them from pursuing a career in boxing. Boxing organizations need to provide equal opportunities and pay for all fighters, regardless of gender or ethnicity. Diverse perspectives and talents can benefit the sport, and steps must be taken to ensure all fighters have a fair chance to succeed. And that was all about the biggest problems in boxing that need to be fixed immediately.